So welcome everybody to a question arising from the BSAVA BEVA survey on recruitment and retention at the end of 2018. We are lucky to have with us today Renata Weller from BEVA.
Hello.
Ebony Escalona from Vetstego Diversify.
Hello.
Chris Stuffnell from the RCVS.
Hi.
And Philip Lemett from the BSAVA.
Hi.
And we are going to talk today about what we can do to keep vets in the practice. And the survey threw up some interesting points as to what people enjoyed about practice and what made people want to stay within a particular practice and what people were frustrated by within particular practices. Renata, what was your take on the survey results?
I mean, where to start? I like the fact that it teases out push and pull factors. So we ask both. So we ask what keeps you in the practice and what makes you what's the main reason for you to leave. And there's obviously, I don't think it's necessarily clear in people's mind that these are two distinct different things. Certainly before I started looking into this, I had never thought this properly through, to be honest. And I thought this is brilliant because it utterly reflects my reasoning. As a lot of people know, I changed employer last year, and I could identify myself with hands down with majority of people. Not that way off, to be honest, but that was a new one for me. So if you're considering leaving your current position, what is the main reason? So what came out was work-life balance and management. These are the two things that people were unhappy with and that were push factors. And I don't know. I don't think it necessarily.
Renata, sorry, we just missed what you said there. The two main reasons were
work-life balance and management. And the biggest push factors, which.
For some reason the line's breaking up a little bit. I'm going to move on to Ebony, and then hopefully your line will get better again in a minute. Ebony, what did you think about the reasons that people gave for staying in a practice?
Oh, I see that time and time again, and it's not just a practice; it's any job. So this is not related to clinical. It is in this sense, but it's actually related to any place we choose to go and work. Work-life balance, your team and that cohesiveness, your location, your family, and your hours. I would like to know from Renata a bit later, and Philip as well, what the others were, because other came out quite high as well. And it's great as well with nurses that it came out, standard of care was also very, very high up for the nurses. So they aren't surprising. They're what any person in this day and age looks at, regardless of where they work and who they work for.
Renata, I don't know if your sound's come back a little bit now, but do you want to?
Yeah, so I can comment a little bit on other. So if you look into what people say in other, it was mainly, I guess roughly you could thematically group those into maybe team environment or work environment as well. So the word friend came up a lot. So, it's a brilliant environment. I want to stay with my friends. And this is where I guess work and life blurs a little bit. So I guess that's what came out thematically, where people see their job environment as something they like to go to. And yeah, that pretty much was other, to be honest.
Philip, what did you take from the survey answers, survey responses?
Yeah, it was interesting really to see that a lot of things came up. The reasons for leaving were often the same reasons for staying. So, and work-life balance comes up quite extensively in that. When you look at the hours worked, I think the average was around about 42 hours, which I think compares fairly favourably with most other jobs. But there's also needs to be more provision for part-time and things nowadays, because we have more families and things and people wanting to come back to work. There's more people doing local work. So the whole work system has changed. As Renata was saying, actually one of the most important things is enjoying where you work. It's being part of the team. and having that sort of team feeling, team spirit, and getting on well with your colleagues, because you spend more time at work than you do at home very often. So having that sort of team spirit and enjoying where you work is vital, really.
Thank you. Chris, was there any surprises for you in the results?
I don't think so, really. I mean, everybody says that people leave a bad manager, and I think that's absolutely right. And I think one of the areas that the profession is improving in again, but is sort of maybe not improving as quickly as it should, is improving that management area. And so much of that relates very closely to the reason why people stick around too, which is a great team and a good culture, and getting that culture right is absolutely critical. And I think the fact that work-life balance appears is, I mean, obviously on the one hand good and on the other hand bad. Balancing work and life can be really, really tricky. But actually, if as Renata says, I mean, you obviously want healthy separation so that you get a decent amount of rest. But actually, if work feels more like life and less like work, because you're in a great place with a great team, with a great culture, and you're delivering a great service, then you're much more likely to stick around. And that is because there is a good manager, hopefully, or good management creating that whole thing. So no, I wasn't that surprised. And I think it was, when you try and create these word clouds and you get independence, you try and tease it all out. It's tempting to try and take individual bits, but actually it all fits together.
Thanks, Chris. Ebony, one of the issues that Chris has raised there is how important the team is, and i.e. humans are. But one of the things that people have repeatedly said they like least about their role is the clients. How do you square that circle?
It's a difficult one. The thing is, they also enjoy their clients. So it's about it's kind of coming back to one of our previous discussions we were having, I think, on feeling really, really comfortable in that communication space. You know, we are now in a world which I think is great, where, you know, we're looking at owner and vet care as one. You know, it's not, there's kind of two experts in the room. They're the one with the lived experience and we're the technical experts. So it's about, yeah, building them into your team. But I think the problem is we also remember the one or two bad things in HD, and we don't remember the thousands of incredible encounters we have daily with our clients. They become almost forgotten after that, those one or two bad encounters. And most people are only challenging because there's something else behind that. So, and that goes from a team member, so, you know, a bad boss or a bad colleague, or, you know, in inverted commas, a bad client as well. There's usually something behind that.
Renata, were there any surprises for you in the survey?
Not necessarily surprises. What I like the best is, my most favorite result of the whole survey is what is the thing you enjoyed most about your job? And that animals just comes out huge. And I you know what, I like that. I mean, I think that's why we became vets in the first place. And the almost second biggest, not quite, is variety. And I mean, show me one profession where you can have that much variety. It just doesn't happen anywhere, is it? I mean, it's if you look, one of my sisters is an accountant. She certainly doesn't have that variety. Makes more money though, hey. But certainly, I wouldn't want to swap with her.
Philip, some of the figures look pretty good actually when you take them responses one by one, and you look at the word clouds, and you look at things that Renata has just mentioned and have been mentioned by others. Do you think, compared to other professions or other jobs, perhaps we actually have it pretty good?
I think this is a cracking profession. I think we are extremely lucky to be working in it. We have, as I said, we have tremendous variety. We have pretty much autonomy in what we do in most practices. We have an advancement. We can see new things learn new things each day. And over my period of my career, new diseases have come and gone, and new techniques have come. What we'll be doing in 20 or 30 years' time, who knows? But it's an exciting world. It's a really exciting profession to be in. And I think we always tend to look on the bad side, and look at the worst bits that happen in the profession. And actually, if you stand back and look at it, it's a great deal better than most other professions that I can think of.
So, Chris, why do you think we sometimes do beat ourselves over the head and say, "God, our work-life balance is awful, our conditions are awful, it's a tough career, and we're hard done by"?
Well, I always tell people that it beats working for a living. So I'm not the person who's suffering. But I do think I think times have changed to a point where the sort of role that we quite often have traditionally played, where we put in long hours and very demanding hours, there is so much more to do with one's leisure time now, and you're so much more involved in so many areas. So pressures on time are huge. And I think what we're failing to do, if we're failing to do anything, is actually innovate in the way we deliver the service. We see innovation as all the tech and all the bright, shiny new toys that we've got. And yet, actually, when you look at the way we deliver the service and the business model we've got, it's very dated. It would be recognised in a lot of practices. It would be recognised sort of nearly 100 years ago. They'd see, well, that's the way that vets do their job. And I think a great deal of thought needs to go into the ways that we can flexibly deliver what we do, and we'll probably improve the way we're delivering what we're doing, whilst allowing people to have the work-life balance or the lifestyle or whatever it is that they wish.
Thanks. And Ebony, Vets Stay Go Diversify is a really positive channel and has some great news on it, but it does also have from time to time people, it gives people the opportunity to say what a tough time they're having. Do you think we sometimes have our blinkers on as a profession and don't compare ourselves to other professions and other jobs?
Yeah, I think we can suffer from, and I've certainly done in the past, suffer from a fixed mindset when it comes to what we feel we're owed by our profession. But hopefully by having these conversations in places like this between us now, places like Vets Stay Go Diversify, I mean, I try to always facilitate and foster, a solutions-focused discussion. I think it's absolutely fine to rant and absolutely fine to have a moan, but then say, okay, so these are my specific challenges. Right, I've thought about this. Can anyone help? And that's where it gets interesting, because we often think we're the only ones with this problem, and then these forums come around and you realize that every other person's having the same problem, and now everyone feels like, oh, that's fine then, if everyone else feels the same, it's not such a big deal. But yes, I do believe our mindsets just need to take a little shift, because the solutions are always out there. Our neighbours, someone next door to us, someone online will have come across a problem and will have been able to sort it. And it's great to have more evidence as well. So now this survey brings us some more evidence wrapped up against the other bits and bobs. If you look at some of the really interesting mental health stuff coming through, Rosie Alistair, Vet Life, they're kind of saying, you've got a limited budget, or you're thinking about development. Actually, if you develop that line manager, which links back to why people leave or stay, if you actually really support that line manager in becoming effective, you'll help the mental health and the resilience and the well-being of the whole team. And again, that links back to retention. So it's brilliant having spaces to share individual ideas, team ideas, research ideas.
Absolutely. Renata, the survey highlighted, or seemed to highlight, that over 40% of vets were considering leaving their current job within the next 2 years. To me, that's a surprisingly high figure. Was it a surprise to you?
No, I think I knew that there was a lot of mobility in the market already. So no, not really. I think that's a great opportunity, because it's a little bit like Tinder. You can find matches, or not like Tinder. Never been on Tinder. I just know the youngsters are using it. But what we discussed in previous webinars, that it's important that you fit in the team. I think if you accept that you will not only have one or two jobs in your life, but there is more mobility, full stop, across the whole, not only our sector, but also other sectors, I think that gives also the opportunity to have better matches and have happier people because they fit better.
Thanks, Renata. Philip, is that sort of figure, do you find there are more people leaving the practice or rotating through the practice now than there were 10 years ago?
No, I don't think so, but I think it depends partly on the type of practice you've got, and we don't know what all those 40 people are thinking of leaving for. Some may be going to progress then, they may have done a certificate and want to go and work in a hospital as a specialist. Some people may want to move as a new graduate to a different type of practice. So there's a lot of movement within the market, it always has been. So I don't think it's particularly surprising. I think one's got to dig deeper into the data to see exactly why people are leaving and what they're leaving for.
Absolutely. Chris, do you think there's any difference in churn rate in the equine profession compared to the small animal profession? I'm accepting you probably only see one side of it.
Well, no, I don't really. 50% of my practice is small animals, so so I do experience both. I don't think I'm fully aware of that. I think there's an increased churn rate now to what there was, but I think that's a general societal change in the way people approach their careers and the way they develop. I mean, certainly my experience over the 15 years I've been running a practice has been that people will leave, and I like to feel that because I get on with almost all of my ex-employees, that it's not because I'm a crap boss, but it's because I tend to employ people who are progressive and very keen on progressing their careers. And I've got people now that I can talk to in fantastic parts of the world and fantastic jobs that have been through the practice. So I think life's changed in that respect. I think one of the sadnesses I find is when people want to move on very quickly, because one of the things about practice, or one of the huge things I value about practice, is building those relationships with clients that actually you need a couple of years really to build up enough of a sort of relationship with clients where they really get to know you and you get to know them, and that's magic. And I do think that some people don't necessarily really experience that because they've not been hanging around for long enough.
Thank you. Anyone like to raise anything else? Ebony.
Yeah, I think, did we mention from a survey the mean number of years that people are spending in a current job? Because that was around 5, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little look and thought, oh, is that good or bad? And actually, a bit like Chris has alluded to, the recruitment landscape across the whole world has changed, and no longer are you kind of having that job for life. And actually, if you look at like the Bureau of Labour statistics for other professions, it's completely in keeping with anything else. So I think that's good to know, that we are just reflecting what's happening around us, really.
Yeah. Anybody else like to raise a point? No? Great. Then perhaps just a question is, do we really have a big problem with retention in practice? Renata?
Oh, okay. I think it's better than it was, certainly better than I expected from anecdotal evidence. So I'm really glad and very grateful to everybody who helped with this survey, because I think we now have some data to go on by. And at least compared to GPs and also human nurses, we are actually, as a profession as a whole, have a better retention than this part of society, which is probably a bit sad as well. So it's, yeah, I'm actually quite relieved in a way.
Thank you. Philip, what do you think? Do we have a big problem?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised by the figures in the survey, but I think we have to look at it a little bit with caution, because we don't know whether that's changing over time. It's a single snapshot, and at the moment it appears to be, as I say, about 10% is around about what other professions are experiencing, or somewhat less than some. So I think at the moment I'm tentatively quite positive about it.
Great. Chris, your thoughts?
Well, like Philip, it would be nice to see movements over time, but I was really encouraged by the findings of this survey. And actually, I think what it really highlights is that retention might not be such a big factor to our manpower challenges. We've definitely got manpower challenges, and fascinatingly, we've had a huge upswing in supply of vets to the market, and yet we seem to be delivering more and more and more to society. So the demand is still there, but I was encouraged that we tend to get beaten over the heads with a stick, marked retention, and constantly saying that we need to fix that first. And this survey is very helpful in that it shows that actually it may not be such a big factor in the manpower challenge.
Ebony.
I just think it's great we're talking about it proactively, and there is no doubt pockets of crises, without a doubt, but I think what'll be great next is let's learn from the people who are nailing it, and copy, because there's no reason why we can't have a whole suite of incredible practices that retain and attract the perfect candidate.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much. Lots of food for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.